In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add elements to the canvas to create your design. So we're going to start by going to Add New Design, and the way we add elements are by using these buttons up here. So first I'm going to add a board, and you'll see on the left hand side here there are round boards and square boards. And this one here is favorites. So let's say I commonly use this size board. I can actually select that as a favorite, and then it'll be available in the favorites list. Now I have my round board selected. Up here there are tabs for thicknesses of the board. So 1mm, 3mm, 6mm, and 9mm. I'm going to go ahead and add a 9mm board, which is 350mm in diameter. Now take note of which button I clicked on here. So most elements in the library, not only boards but also cakes and decorations and other things, will have multiple views. This is basically so that we can create different views of the cake. I'll go through these one by one. So the first one is isometric view, right? The second one is a front view. So if you were looking at this board from the front, you would just see that. And the third one is the top view. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add some cakes. So we're going to click on Add Cake. So you'll notice here that there are different categories for the shapes of the cakes as well. These last two categories are quite unique in that combinations will show you preset combinations that you can add just to make things easier. On the top left corner here you'll see a pink number. This is basically the standard number of servings based on your portion sizes in your Cakenote settings. And you'll notice also these have isometric front view and top view. So if I was to click on, I'll go with 3 tier. If I was to click on the isometric view, it would just drop in those 3 cakes like that. If I was to click on the side view, I would get those 3. And if I click on top view, you get the top view. Now, one thing that is very important to mention is that these buttons up here will actually add the cakes to the canvas. So right now, if I was making this cake, Cakenote thinks that you're making 3 cakes, right? This whole thing would be 1 cake, this whole thing would be another cake, and this would be another cake. So all the calculations for portions and pricing and everything would be times by 3. Now, we don't want this. And that is why we have these buttons down here. So if I want to only calculate pricing and costing and all that stuff one time, but I also wanted to add these to the canvas just to visually see them, you would add these things as images only. Okay, and that's what these buttons are here. So let's just delete these, and I'll show you how to do that. So you can see here also on the layers panel, you can see all the different cakes that we have on the canvas. And this isn't correct because if you go to the servings panel, as I mentioned, according to Cakenote, this is 314 standard servings. That's because it's calculating them all. So essentially we're making 9 cakes here. Right? So we don't want this. So I'm going to delete these. And now that is the proper calculation. So if I was to make this cake, it'd be 105 standard servings. So now let's go and add those other views as images only. So I added a 9mm thick by 350mm diameter, right? And I want a side view, but I want an image only. So I'm going to click that. So adding this as an image only doesn't add a proper layer to the layers list here. Right, it does add a layer, but it's very thin, right? And we only put this in here because it needs to be included here so that we can see what's on top of what. That's the reason why there's a line there. You can see if I deselect it, it's gone. I select it, it appears again. So now I'm going to go and add the top view as well for that as an image only. Now I'm going to add those cakes. And I added it from a combination. So I'm going to click on this image only front view. This one down, and then image only top view. See, now I've got a lot of images on here. You can actually see the lines there. You can actually select them as well, but like I said, this is just for the purpose of knowing what's on top of what. Like if I was to move this up above those images, you could still do that. Also notice that when I selected combinations, the tabs up here change to the shapes. So you can also have square arrangements, and there's a number of mixed ones that we've set up here. For these other categories, round, square, rectangle, hexagon, round, slanting, you will see tabs based on the cake's height. So for example, we'll go to round. These cakes are all 25 millimeters high. These cakes are all 50 millimeters high, and so on. You can also tell what the size of the cake is by looking at these numbers here. So it basically goes height and then diameter. So this is 125 high, 125 millimeters high by 75 millimeters in diameter. There's also a filter that you can use over here. So if I was looking for 300 diameter, I could just type 300 in and you'd find it straight away because it's got 300 in the actual title. And just like I showed you before with the boards, we can actually favorite cakes. Let's say I use these all the time. I want to favorite them. You can find it easily by clicking on the favorite category here. And also, as I said, combinations and 3D cakes are unique in that they aren't just showing you simple shapes. They actually work a bit differently. So combinations will show you these different arrangements here by tier, and also the shapes change. Instead of showing you heights of cakes, it shows you shapes. And 3D cakes will also show you different categories up here. Now bear in mind that these categories up here are categories that we've set up in under our 3D cakes list. So whatever categories you've set up in your 3D cakes list will appear here. Let's go ahead and add some decorations. So just like before, on the left hand side we have categories for different decorations, and these are all ones that we've set up, and you can also set up your own ones as well from the decorations list. So say I want to add some flowers. I'm going to click on flowers. And again, just like before, we have these buttons up here, which will actually add the decoration to our layers panel and calculate pricing as well. So we can see here in our decorations, in our summary, we've got $3 added. And if I was to copy that, we'd have another one, and we would have $6 down here. But if I was to add an image only, then you would see it doesn't calculate the pricing for it. It's just for visual purposes. Okay, and there's a top view as well, which I want an image only because I want to add it over here. I'm not worrying too much about designing a nice cake here. I'm just showing you how it works. And obviously there's leaves as well, and feel free to go through these decorations in your own time. Okay, so construction, we've put this in here just so you can work out what kind of internal structure there is here. So if I was going to make this cake in real life, there would have to be some kind of internal support in this cake. So we've added some things in here for you to use. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it's there. And of course these also calculate pricing, and you can also add them as images as well. Basically, adding something as an image does not calculate pricing and costing. So I'll just quickly make an internal support for this. So I know that these cakes are 100 high, and if I was to have a threaded rod going through the middle, so we would add a 30 here, like this. And to hold that up, I would need a washer. So this is an M6. So you would add an M6 washer. So construction items don't always have isometric views. Actually, they never do, because we add construction items in here just as a plan. It's not as a visual thing, so we don't really need an isometric view for that. And best practice would be to add the construction to a side view like this, so you can actually see what's happening. So this is an M6 threaded rod, which is a 6mm diameter, which I would add some nuts for that. And then we would put an internal board to hold this up. So I'm going to use a 3mm board for this, just because it's internal and, you know, it's not seen. It's just for support. So this is a 200mm cake in the middle here, so I'm going to get a 200mm board, which is a side view. And since I want to calculate pricing for this, I would add it as an actual layer. So that would go in there. So I'm not going to finish this cake off. Just wanted to show you the process of how you would do it, and basically make it clear about adding something as an actual layer versus adding something as an image. If you want to calculate pricing, you add it as an actual layer. If you want it just for visual purposes on the canvas, you add it as an image. Another handy thing we can do here is, see now, this construction is actually clashing with my actual cake, and I want it to be kind of easy to select, but it's not, right? So what you can do is actually group things. So I'm going to hold shift here and just select everything but the construction. Move it over here for now. And with my construction items, I'm going to select everything and click on the group button, which is up here. So if I do that, all my construction items are now grouped into this one item, and we can select it and move it around easily. So now let's move on to images. If we wanted to add images, basically these are things that we just want to see on the canvas, but they do not include pricing. So keep that in mind. There's still an image only button here and a normal layer button here, but images do not have pricing, so it doesn't really matter which one you use. The only difference here would be that if I added one as using this, you would actually see it over here as a layer, and if I added it using image only, you would not see it because it would be hidden like those other image only layer types like that. You can use this to do any kind of like visual sort of modification, but just bear in mind that images do not have prices. If I wanted this particular thing to be a decoration that I want to charge my customers money for, then I could use it. I could add this as a decoration instead with a price. And finally, we have templates over here, which I've discussed in another video called How Designs Work in Cakenote. You can set up different arrangements of decorations, or cakes, or entire designs if you like, and add them in. Just drop them in easily. Just think of them as arrangements that you use commonly for different cakes that you make. It could be an arrangement of flowers or an arrangement of cakes or construction or anything. But you would just add them in like this, they drop in. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it. If you have any questions about this, you can contact us through our contact page on our website or use the chat widget down the bottom right corner of Cakenote. Thank you for watching.